If you or a loved one are thinking about downsizing in Iowa and searching for the perfect senior living community, this video is here to make that process easier and feel less overwhelming. Feel free to stick around to the end of this video where I will share with you my free resource to help you and your loved one compare senior living communities in Iowa side by side. My name's Andy Allgreen. I'm a senior home coach and a realtor here in Iowa, and my main goal is just to help educate, empower, and equip seniors with just education and value, just to be able to help seniors and their loved ones navigate this transition from downsizing into a smaller home or into a senior living community, and just to provide resources and education to help everyone that's just navigating this transition. So step number one is to know what to look for when you actually start looking for a senior living community. And I think that starts with level of care. So if you are completely independent and don't need any help and don't need any assistance or anything like that, then you might just be looking to downsize into a smaller home, which is perfectly fine. Obviously this video is going to be centered around senior living communities. So the other option would be to, if you are completely independent, there are communities that are called CCRC communities, which is continuing care retirement communities, and those have all levels of care. So you have independent living, assisted living, long-term care, and typically memory care inside of that. So with that, you obviously kind of as you progress, or as your loved one would progress, you would move from independent living, and maybe they are just needing some more help with your activities of daily living. Then they might move down to assisted living, and then if their health did progress from there, and they would move down into long-term care or memory care, depending on what the situation is. If you are needing help with activities of daily living, or your loved one is needing help with those things, you could also just start out with a standalone assisted living community, or depending on level of care, a standalone long-term care community as well. So after you start thinking about the level of care you might need and which community you might need to or want to move into, I would start thinking about the essential services that might be near a community that you're looking at. So first, just starting with the location, like, do you want to be close? What things do you like to do? What hobbies do you have? Do you have family nearby those communities? Are there certain amenities? Do you like to go shopping? Is it close to a hospital that you go to? Things like that. Just start asking yourself questions on proximity to essential services. Once you start thinking about that and just kind of figuring out the location, you typically are going to be able to narrow down 2 to 4 senior living communities that are near those things, depending on where you're at in Iowa. As you start spreading out and getting into the more rural communities, there tends to become less options available for seniors, from what I found. So you're going to have a lot more options inside of central Des Moines, and then once you start to expand and go further away from central Des Moines, you're going to have less options. So it just kind of depends on what you like to do, what your hobbies are, and where you would want to live. So after you found a couple, start thinking about what is actually inside of the senior living community. Is there a fitness center? What different social events do they have going on? I would ask for a calendar, a monthly calendar. Most of them will have an activities director that's coming up with a list of activities and events that are going on. I would ask also what their dining services look like. Typically, most of them are going to provide 3 meals a day, but just double check and ask them that. Some communities have a bus that you're able to get on, and you can request to be taken places. So I would ask communities about that. These are just a few questions and examples of what I would ask a senior living community when you start touring them and when you find some that you might want to move into. I have a complete list of questions that will help you evaluate each senior living community. If you want that list of questions, just shoot me an email or shoot me a text. Just reach out and let me know if you want it, and happy to share that with you. Step number 2 is figuring out how many senior living communities you need to actually tour. Kind of like I said before, after you figure out a location, that's going to help narrow down a lot and just rule out a lot of different communities that you might have thought you wanted to tour. But once you figure out the location and things you like doing and where you want to be, That will help narrow down 2 to 4 max. I would say that visiting 5 or more might feel overwhelming, and sometimes even 4 might be too much, but definitely I would say at least 2, 2 to 4 would be a good number. And when you start setting up and touring these communities, there's going to be someone that obviously will take you throughout the building and just show you around, explain how all of their processes work and what the environment is like. And I would recommend also visiting during like a lunch hour time frame when things might be a little bit more busier, if you're able to do that and your schedule allows for that, just because it kind of shows what's happening during those time frames. At the end of the day, quality over quantity matters, in my opinion. So don't feel like you have to visit 5 or more. I would say start with 2, 3, 4 at the most, and just figure out the quality of each one, compare them, and go from there. Step number 3 pretty much aligns with step number 2, to be honest, but it's essentially using a senior living community comparison chart. And what this comparison chart does, it basically just helps you keep track and not lose your train of thought, or after you visit 2 to 3, it sometimes might be hard to remember what exactly was at each one. So basically this comparison chart just helps you keep track of each community and how they're alike and how they're different. Highly recommend using a comparison chart. It just overall helps you stay organized and just helps you remember what's at each community, what you like about each community, what you didn't like, what amenities that they have, is it pet friendly, what were the layouts of the different styles of apartments that were there, things like that. It just helps you keep track of all those things and just helps you stay more organized. Transitioning to a senior living community doesn't have to be as stressful as you might think. To make this process easier for you and your loved one, I've created these 2 helpful resources. Number 1 is just a full list of questions to ask during and when you're visiting the senior living communities. And number 2 is that comparison chart. If you'd like either of these resources, just feel free to give me a call, give me a text, shoot me an email. All that information is provided down below, and I'm happy to get you those resources, just to be able to help you and your loved one transition into a senior living community. If you thought this video was helpful, feel free to like, share, and subscribe for future tips on navigating senior living and transitioning in Iowa.